like and subscribe. Now, what is socially acceptable in the US that would be horrifying in the UK? Cashiers being forced to stand. Give them a refine you masochists. Greeters in supermarkets. Just feels fake as F. They act friendly, but their real job is reminding you someone is watching so you don't shoplift. Always horrified by the ads, both the content and the recurrence. Bloody hell. All your TV has like an ad a minute. I took my British boyfriend to a pro-American football game and he was so confused by all the pauses. Had to explain that we were waiting around for the people at home to watch commercials. I told him once that British shows have so much less dialogue than American ones. And he brought up the addition of adverts here. There's more time for nuance when you don't have to hear about migraine meds and car insurance every 7 minutes. Hang on. They pause a live game. So people not at the game can watch adverts. The F is this nonsense? Stores showing the price pre-tax. Here in the UK the price you see is the price you pay. As someone terrible at maths, shopping in the US stressed me out so much. Telling me how much the tip is going to be. Gaps in bathroom stalls. For anyone who is wondering. When my American friend said I was double fisting because I had another pint before my other was finished, I thought he meant something else entirely. The weird thing is fisting is also a sexual term here. I spy another BuzzFeed post. Not pronouncing the H in herbs. When my Brit friends were visiting, they were horrified when the waiter took their credit card to swipe back at the terminal. This made them really uncomfortable. Yeah, and then bring you the receipt to sign it. I'm in Europe and I haven't signed a credit card receipt in over a decade. Even my neighborhood farmer who does rounds in his van delivering produce to the neighbors carries a handheld card reader. And since the pandemic almost all of them are contactless. Unlock your phone, put it close to the reader. Done. Paid. I am Canadian. I was at Disneyland a couple years ago and used my credit card's contactless pay system at one of their restaurants in the park because I noticed it had the little logo on the machine indicating it was possible. You know, the technology that has been standard for more than a decade. The person working that till had no clue what the F happened when they suddenly noticed that the transaction had been recorded. They looked at me like I was from some other dimension. Despite working a till that had the capacity for contactless pay, that Disneyland employee had never seen anyone use it, and didn't even know that their machine had that capability. That day, I brought the Tomorrowland magic to Disney. I would be uncomfortable too. I'm FRM Canada and they usually hand us the machine so that we can pay ourselves. German here. Same for us. You never give your credit card to anyone else. If you do and someone steals from you, the bank insurance might actually refuse to pay anything back to you. Asking new neighbors, have you found a church yet? Anything taking over an hour to get to being a short trip. There's an insane amount of Americans that have an hour or more as their daily commute. Used to have an hour and a half commute. Woke up at 5:30 AM to get ready. Left my house at 6:30. Got to work at 8 and got back home at 6 PM so I could be in bed by 9. I was always tired and the weekends were only for errands and anything else that I had to put off during the week. Spent over $300 a week on gas. Changed my oil once a month. And I managed to take my car from 70,000 miles to 95,000 in 4 months. Now I got a job 8 minutes away and life is so much better. I have a bus run that takes almost 2 hours just to drive one half of it. It's another 2 or so to finish up. A full shift on that route is 2-3 rotations. It blows my mind people can drive that amount and end up in a different country when I'm just going through 2 cities. If we drive 2 hours the accent has changed twice and bread rolls have a new name. I live in Texas, recently made a day trip 2.5 there 2.5 back that night. That's pretty normal here. Yep, Californian too. There's a lot of great stuff 3-4 hours away from me. It's far easier to day trip to the mall vs trying to find lodging. Calling where's Wally where's Waldo? My life is a lie. In French his name is Charlie. Waldo vs Wally can put their differences aside to deal with this A rubber in England is not the same as a rubber in the US. What is a rubber in England? An eraser. However, in both cases, one uses a rubber to avoid a lasting mistake. Naming your child Randy. I'm Irish, but my dad works for an American company and their CEO's name is Randy Horn. We got a good laugh out of that one. There's an American comic book artist named Randy Queen. The first time he went to London for a comic book convention, he discovered his hotel had cancelled his reservation because they thought it was a prank caller. Allegedly, Scottish comic book writer Grant Morrison choked on their drink when they were introduced, studied psychology A-level and learned about a well-known sleep study by Randy Gardner. No one in the class kept a straight face. Randy Giles? Why not just call me Horny Charles or Desperate for a Shag Charles? I knew there was a reason I hated you. Sigh. So, I went on a trip to Ireland and I learned to had to introduce myself by saying my name is, not I'm. Because there was always a pause and a row. You're serious, haha. I talked to one woman and she was like, yeah, we know it's a name because famous people have that name, but we'd never name our kids that. Why is that weird? Sorry, I am American, lol. Randy in the UK is another word for feeling horny. When somebody says you should come to their house sometime. Actually going by their house sometime. Really wish I knew this one before spending a year in the UK. I did some serious prep on the cultural norms but missed this one. Cue me chatting to someone at a luncheon who says very enthusiastically you should come over for dinner sometime. And me responding I'd love to. Would next weekend work? She got super uncomfortable and awkward and just walked away without saying anything. I was left standing there completely confused. Chatting casually at the lift. The fact that the second floor in the US is the first floor in the UK. Really confusing the first time I went in an elevator in the UK. Saying elevator instead of lift. Commercials advertising prescription drugs. Ask your doctor if OxyContin is right for you. Meanwhile, this behavior would result in notes in your medical record that follow you around every doctor's office you go to. Huge portion sizes. Kids meal in US is like a adult meal in UK. My observation. Brits drink alcohol like Americans eat. Americans eat a lot more and have bigger portions. But holy sh, folks from the UK drink way more than your standard American. Hard to explain how much more. I remember drinking with Brits the first time. I was fresh out of college in my drinking prime. I reached the point where I normally hit the brakes and take it easy, and instead they just hit the gas. Politicians mentioning religion when campaigning. Only a few years ago that Tom Farron got raked over the coals when it came out he was quite religious, which implied he might be anti-gay marriage. Night and day compared with his politics. It haunted that entire general election for him. Everyone knew he was strictly religious but he couldn't really defend himself, as politicians just don't talk about their religion. I remember multiple journalists asking if he thought being gay was a sin and he just had to dodge every question. Addressing a stranger as sir. The only person you address with sir in the UK is your teacher. Which is weird because school is the only place we don't use it in America. Your teacher is always Mr. Mrs. Miss. Surname. Iced tea. You trying to start another war? OP offered a pretty steep invitation to do so. Not from UK, but Australia. I feel like we're pretty interchangeable at times, culturally speaking. But tipping is weird. It's strange to pay on top of a service you've already paid for. Some places have a tip jar that you might sometimes put your loose change in, but that's the real extent of it. I find it bizarre when a company makes its employees rely on the generosity of others when they themselves aren't generous enough to pay a livable wage. Saying someone has a lot of spunk. My late cat's name was Spunky. Named her when I was 4 and thought I had made the word up entirely. In the US it was a cute and accurate name for a cat. When I moved to England I just referred to her as Cat. The full name is Cat Thew. What does spunk mean in the UK? Where I'm from we've always used it to mean high energy. Someone has spunkacker, they have lots of peppered energy. LMAO, never mind, I got the answer. Thank you. There was a line in The Last Jedi where Snoke says to Rey you've got a lot of spunk in the midst of a big serious confrontation scene and I just couldn't stop myself laughing in the theater. I heard The Last Airbender movie, among its many other crimes, caused issues like this in the UK with such lines as he looks like a bender from the north etc. I have one that's the other way around. A girlfriend did that hands over the eyes surprise thing and presented me with a little Christmas tree decorated with candy cane. I said, oh, a dinky little Christmas tree. In America dinky means worthless. In the UK it means small and cute. She cried. I had called my mother to back me up on the misunderstanding. Over here saying something is quite good means it's not bad. In the US it's closer to very good. I had a student from the UK say that a chart I made for a lecture was brilliant. It was a compliment. But if he had been American, it would have been a much bigger compliment, especially in an academic context. Can confirm. Am worthless. Dinky has a negative connotation for sure in the US. Bumbag, not fanny pack. Cos over there your fanny means your ass, not your ming. Bites scotch egg. Being permitted to turn right at a red light, or even left if turning from one-way street to another one-way street in some states, unless there is a sign specifying no turn on red. As I found out is done in another thread the other day, eating sandwiches without butter on the bread. Being from the UK, this horrifies me. They do effing what? Man. Haha, this made me laugh so hard. The literal only time I've been served a sandwich without butter herein is in effing hospital. I was given a dry white chicken sandwich with only plain roast chicken in it, no butter, no other ingredients, and a cup of water. Grim. Butter creates a seal that helps stop your bread getting soggy from any moist fillings. At least that's what my mum told me. But slide before. When someone says, make yourself at home, actually making yourself at home. I have a cousin I'm close to and I've still never seen the upstairs floor of her house. I laughed so hard at your comment. Here in northern Germany it's quite similar. Wait, no one actually does that, right? People just sit on the couch and maybe grab a cushion. That's all, right? If you are close friends or family, it's very literal in the US. At least here in the NE, no one does anything rude like put their feet up on a couch or table, but for the most part, it indicates a wide set of permissions. Usually, it's courteous to ask for the first few things to establish boundaries, but once you clear, let's say a drink, most people will just grab the second for themselves, and typically this is okay. My husband's friend came over one time, uninvited, and immediately used my kitchen sink to give his dog, also uninvited, a bath. That is highly context driven. Close family and friends. You could rifle through their medicine cabinet and berate them for being out of Q-tips after they tell you this. Most of the time, though, it means you can sit on the couch and not teeter around awkwardly. If they extend this to a beverage, they might tell you where you can find one, and then it is really only licensed to look in that place. LMAO, I'm American and I still can't do this. I found a middle ground where I'll just ask for whatever I want without fear of being rude. So do you mind if I grab another soda? I'll refill the pretzel bowl if that's okay with you. It's kinda overly pushy where it might be rude, except they wanted you to relax, so I think it toes the line enough. Paying more than the price you see on a price tag in a shop due to taxes. WTF, just put how much it costs. How much sugar is added to us food v UK food? Not just that, but portion size. Wait, other countries don't sell 36-ounce individual steaks? Looking around someone's house and complimenting things. At Christmas time tons of people go to places they don't even live at to look at the Christmas decorations people have put up in their neighborhood houses. Sometimes there is lines of like 30 cars going through a neighborhood just to look at people's houses. Yep. There's a street in my town called Candy Cane Lane and its residents go all out with their Christmas decorations. Come December the neighborhood is packed with cars and pedestrians slowly cruising through looking at the displays. As a Brit in the US, this is a fun one. Pharmaceutical adverts on the TV are still weird after me. The length and frequency of commercial breaks in general on TV is shocking. Low hanging fruit, but anything relating to child beauty pageants just makes me feel physically sick. Here's a nice one. Taking 20+ minutes to help a complete stranger who is struggling with something. The amount of times a total stranger has stopped to assist me or someone I know, you'll really make my heart melt. Is your nose itchy? Why not ask your doctor if itchathan is right for you? Side effects may include bleeding out the anus, heart attacks, suicidal thoughts, homicidal thoughts, sudden desires for homosex, thoughts about suicide by cop, sudden unexpected death, itchy nose, feelings of doom leading to expected death, bleeding out of the penis, bleeding out the nipples, ears rotting off, depression, itchy nose. Do not take itchathan if you are allergic to itchathan or to any of itchathan's ingredients. It may take weeks to see positive results which are neither major nor typical. Call your doctor immediately if you die. American hospitality really is something special, I tell you. I remember my first visit in America. low on gas at a random unstaffed station. When me and my friend were about to pay, we noticed our European credit cards didn't work and we didn't have enough cash either. A couple of minutes later this dude shows up and he asks us if we are having trouble paying. We said yeah, we don't have enough cash and our cards don't work. He just asked us how much we were short for and gave us the remaining amount. Anything relating to child beauty pageants. I don't know any Americans who aren't horrified by these either. Either you're horrified by them or you're involved with them. There is no middle ground. Americans helping strangers. When I was living in Italy, there were often moments, like a mother struggling to get a stroller out of a hole in the sidewalk, where I was floored that everyone just pushed past and did not help. Americans have tons of flaws, but most would offer help in that situation without thinking twice. The inverse answer to this question would be calling people a C. I'm originally from the UK. Have a son that loves Japanese stuff, so we went to a gun show that had people selling swords. Found a really nice katana for him to hang on his playroom wall, but that surreal moment when we are walking out of the show, with his sword and scabbard, on end, by his side, walked past a cop at entrance, who nodded approval, nice sword. Then in the parking lot, past a lad, his agent, his dad, both carrying semi-automatics rifles on slings. Both nodded approval and respect to my boy with his sword. The whole show had hundreds of people walking around with guns and bags of ammo. Never felt anything but safe, but did think how this would be a tad out of place back home. Definitely out of place. One mate of mine bought a novelty umbrella with a sword handle and got stopped by armed police at the train station. My college went into lockdown for a few hours in 2015-2012 because of just such an umbrella. Later that day I saw a shirt that read "I survived the RIT umbrella massacre of 2015. 2012 would be a tad out of place back home. Just a smidge unusual, even. High fructose corn syrup. That's because it has heavy government subsidies. Farmers get millions to grow corn with no market, so it can be converted to HFCS for cheap. Never understood this. The most heavily subsidized crop in the country is being used to make the most unhealthy of all foods. Can't we just pay them to grow something else? I'm sure it's not that simple, but why are we spending all this money just to make everyone unhealthy? Coming from the perspective of a British guy, your style of customer service, not universally, but very commonly, it's way too over the top for us. Nobody here can be effed with that. I lived in the UK for 3 months and this is surprisingly accurate. Every customer service type person I interacted with seemed like they could hardly be bothered. American cashiers be like, "OMG, hi, how are you today?" British cashiers be like, "You alright." "You alright" is a legitimate word that appears in your standard issue British dictionary, given out only to natives. It's a way of saying I am going to use your reply to completely rebuild my tone and demeanor to best suit this conversation. But then you have to know how to respond. USA service with smile. UK service with shrug. France service with a sneer. In Germany you have to apologize to salespeople for bothering them in the store. Didn't Germany's first Walmart tank because people were super turned off by the dog greeters and faux friendly staff? Possible urban legend. I've learned from my British friends that you have to be very careful giving peace signs. If you have your hand facing a certain way, it's like a F you in the UK basically, whereas in the US it doesn't matter which way it's facing really. Several years ago I sent them a picture with me doing an incorrect peace sign and they were appalled. Eater. The offensive version is where your palm is facing inwards. Eater again. My life goal of being on BuzzFeed has been achieved. I was in Japan once and there was a vending machine selling beer outside my hotel room. So, being British, I bought a can and went to the elevator where I shared an excruciating couple of minutes with 2 American businessmen. They were horrified at my early day drinking, and I at their willingness to express this. I was in Japan once and there was a vending machine selling beer outside my hotel room. This is already a massive culture shock to Americans in the first place. Just the fact there are vending machines everywhere was a culture shock to me. Walking down a street in Osaka and there must have been a vending machine every 100 feet. Really best time in a hotel I've had. Free Wi-Fi for Japanese Netflix and a cold tall 1 or 2 from the vending machine 1 floor below. It was amazing just chilling on the bed at night watching a movie. I once heard a story of an American company buying a German one. When they looked at productivity they decided to remove lunch beers. The move resulted in lower moral, less productivity, so they had to bring it back. Not sure if true or not. I've worked in Bavaria. Beers in the works canteen are real. Complaining about the food you were served. Being a Brit originally, I became a citizen a couple of years back. I just accept what I got even if it wasn't quite what I asked for. Whereas my wife, she doesn't tolerate that and will ask them to correct it. Although she is nowhere near as bad as my stepmother-in-law. Even my wife is horrified by the lengths she will go to get a discount on the bill, like the food was a bit dry and overcooked, even though she ate most of the plate. And my father-in-law will suddenly support her. Not sure if it is just to have her back or to make her look less like a twat. And he will agree while his plate is completely clean. You just don't do that in Britain. And it makes me want to take a walk while they pull that crap. Not in the US, but Canada. When I went to the UK, I told people I had gotten this from the drugstore and I got some funny looks for saying that. I was told to say pharmacy and not drugstore because it means something way different there. My British partner, American, were in London, running late to meet our friends. Just as we get to the tube station, I see our train has just pulled in. We haul lay across platform and I yell, "Hold the door." Someone does. We make the train. I don't see a problem. My partner, by contrast, is mortified. This was 4-5 years ago. He is still mortified. Apparently we were meant to just let the train leave, without us, wait for the next one. His was 4-5 years ago. He is still mortified. A true Brit indeed. I'm more surprised someone held the door. Too polite to decline. Try that in Vienna. The subway driver will personally insult you over the speakers. I almost missed a train in Denmark, outside Copenhagen in the countryside. I was fumbling quickly trying to pick up my things back etc to board the train. The door almost closed on me, but in Nick, if the train door closes on you it just reopens until there's nothing blocking it. It doesn't close hard either. The train attendant looked mortified and told me how absolutely so stupid I was. I was shocked by her response, and I definitely felt stupid, but didn't totally understand. Then I found out that the doors close hard and don't reopen. So the train just drives away with your body hanging halfway out and you probably die. Going 5 miles per hour over the speed limit on the right lane, unless you can claim diplomatic immunity and flee the country. This is so dark but so good. Congrats. Maybe not social acceptance, but in the US you can turn right on a red light. No turning left on a red light for us Brits. Most upvoted comment of mine ever. Well done people. All of these are super low hanging fruit, I'd say. Being very sociable with strangers. Most conversation I've seen down here in Cornwall is started when there's a car crash and people are gossiping about it, or you live in a small town village and you know the people around you. Going to America and having someone strike up a conversation while I'm minding my own business or when I'm trying to go somewhere was strange for me. The stereotype is that an American will tell you their life story on a plane ride and then get up and never expect to see you again. Baking tea in a microwave.